You may have heard the phrase, your tax dollars at work, and for years, your tax dollars have been supposedly working to bring peace to the Middle East by going straight into the hands of the Palestinian Authority.
But are American taxpayers getting what they paid for? That's the question after the latest charges of Palestinian corruption. Chris Mitchell has that story from Jerusalem.
Yasser Arafat's former money man started a feud recently with PA President Mahmoud Abbas when he told Al Arabiya Abbas is worth millions.
Mohammed Rashid said in the interview, if I gave him $20,000 to survive from where he got right now, $15 million in his bank account.
Now, according to human rights activist Bassam Eid, Rashid and Abbas are accusing each other of hoarding millions from the PA. The feud puts a spotlight on a system where foreign nations donate billions to the PA with little oversight.
No one knows, for example, how much the security forces cost. And presumably, according to Palestinian sources, 50% of the budget goes to them.
Hillel Frisch is a professor at Bar-Ilan University and an expert on Palestinian affairs.
The problem with the Palestinian Authority is the tremendous subsidization at the expense of the American and European taxpayer. It's one of the few countries in the world that is subsidized to the tune of 40% of its budget. So that means that the corruption is not only an in-house story, it's a story that affects the American and the European taxpayer.
Despite the lack of accountability, the U.S. keeps sending money. In April, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton defied Congress and released $147 million to the PA.
Well, obviously, they're not exercising enough authority over money going to the Palestinians.
Congressman Louis Gohmert wants answers from the State Department and the PA.
In one of our meetings in the West Bank, I said, look, do you understand that when you're not spending the billions of dollars that you've received from countries, particularly the United States, to provide homes for your own people who are homeless, how do you expect us to keep funding you?
Gohmert says the money fuels the conflict.
You know, it really looks like when you squander money and don't help the homeless have homes, that you are trying to keep this hatred, keep this anger going, so that the feud keeps going. Why should we fund that? Well, the answer is we shouldn't.
So far, the Obama administration seems silent on the issue. Chris Mitchell, CBN News, Jerusalem.
Now, this is not a new issue. When Yasser Arafat died, his estate was supposedly worth in excess of $1 billion. And so how in the world did he, this revolutionary, amass that kind of fortune? So it's not new. And the head of the Palestinian Authority taking money, we really shouldn't be surprised. We also shouldn't be surprised that it's intentional to try to keep poverty in Gaza and the West Bank. Years ago, there were refugee camps in southern Lebanon. This is after the PLO had been kicked out of Jordan because they tried to overthrow the king of Jordan. And he said, well, if you're going to do that, you're not going to have refuge in my country anymore. And so Lebanon at that point in time was the jewel of the Mediterranean, and just a wonderful example of how Christian and Jews and Muslims can live together. Well, the PLO moved in and they established these refugee camps. At the same time, they were the most highly educated part of that population, more PhDs in that refugee camp than anywhere else. They insisted on staying there because that would help foment revolution and keep the hope alive that they could drive Israel into the sea. If they could keep their population unsettled and disgruntled and poor, that would help the leaders in the long run. So that's the game that's getting played, and it's been played for decades. It's not new. Unfortunately, we're caught in a catch-22 because what that money does is also pay for the police force of the Palestinian Authority, and without that, you really would have chaos, and once again, Israel would be forced to occupy those lands. That's not something that our State Department wants, and that's why we continue to spend the money. Lee Webb has the rest of our top stories from the CBN Newsroom. Lee?
Gordon, lawmakers in the House are set to vote on a bill to outlaw the practice of sex selection abortion in the U.S. The measure aims to make it illegal to abort a baby based on its gender. Arizona Republican Trent Franks wrote the bill.
This evil practice has now allowed thousands of little girls in America and millions of little girls across the world to be brutally dismembered, most of them in their second or third trimester, when they are capable of feeling extreme pain simply because they were little girls instead of little boys, Mr. Speaker. Sex selection is violence against women, and it is the truest kind of war against women. And it has now brought humanity to a place where the three deadliest words on this earth are, it's a girl.
Representative Franks has around 100 co-sponsors for his bill. The pro-life group Live Action has been working to bring the issue of sex selection abortion before the public. Live Action released video Tuesday of a Planned Parenthood counselor going along with a woman's desire for an abortion if her child is a girl. Lila Rose founded Live Action at the age of 15. Paul Strand talked to her about the video, Planned Parenthood, and her fight for the unborn.
This undercover video clearly caught a counselor at Planned Parenthood not just going along with the idea of a gender-side abortion, but agreeing with the mom, really a Live Action operative, that the mom shouldn't tell people her plan.
But do you think I still just shouldn't worry about telling them that I would be terminating if it's a girl? Just kind of just keep it quiet and then come here.
Yeah, I would.
Planned Parenthood says they fired this counselor, that she was just a beginner, and they're retraining staff because
We absolutely condemn sex selection.
But Celinda Vasquez says if a woman wants a gender-side abortion,
We encourage the woman to really discuss with her family and consult her faith on the matter.
Planned Parenthood's reaction to Live Action is basically we condemn discrimination based on gender, but we support doing sex-selective abortions.
Live Action leader Lila Rose says Planned Parenthood's defense is weak and contradictory.
They fired their employee claiming that she broke protocol, but they couldn't point to the protocol that she broke. Because the reality is Planned Parenthood and their supposedly pro-women allies, really pro-abortion allies, are so insistent on abortion and protecting it as if it's some kind of a human right that they'll even go as far as targeting little girls in the late term for violent sex-selective abortions.
This passion to fight abortion goes back to Lila's childhood, where she was one of 8 siblings in a Christian home.
When I first found out about abortion, I was horrified. I think most people are. And I thought, we can't allow this to be happening in our country.
At just 15, Lila started Live Action with its mission to use undercover investigations against Planned Parenthood. She feels it's what she can best do to fight for an end to the abortion genocide.
We've seen 4,000 abortions every day in our country for years. We're missing over 50 million children in America. Of that number, we're missing untold amounts of girls disproportionately. I mean, you can splice it different ways, but the reality is this is a human rights atrocity to an extent that we've never seen before as a nation. I don't think we've ever seen before in human history.
Live Action plans to keep up its unrelenting attacks on Planned Parenthood. And for Lila, the fight is a matter of faith.
Nothing's more valuable than human life, and protecting and cherishing and loving human life. As Christians, we know that to love one another is a commandment, is a way to love Christ himself. And so the more that we practice this, and especially in our resolute, bold, gracious, but bold stand against abortion in the United States, we're practicing that fundamental calling as Christians.
Paul Strand, CBN News, Washington.
Planned Parenthood has endorsed President Obama for re-election, and the group has started an ad campaign against Mitt Romney, calling him, quote, just wrong for women. For the second time in 2 weeks, the Illinois State Senate has rejected an anti-bullying bill. That bill would have forced schools to adopt detailed policies for reporting and investigating bullying complaints. Conservative groups say the legislation was being used to force students to attend indoctrination sessions on homosexuality. They asked for a provision allowing students to opt out of anti-bullying sessions designed to challenge their religious beliefs.
there are many people of goodwill who do want to see an end to bullying and harassment of any schools and create safe schools. But there are some who are using this as pushing a political agenda. You see this somewhat coming from the homosexual communities. The wrong kind of anti-bullying laws can be a threat to religious freedom. If a bullying law is not aimed at protecting all students, but starts creating classifications of students, that's kind of a warning signal.
The Illinois State Senate considered that bill twice. It was rejected both times. You can find the rest of our interview with Kim Colby at cbnnews.com. Well, the Pentagon is looking to the private sector now for help in computer warfare. The Washington Post reports the military is turning to businesses and universities to develop technologies for cyber warfare. It's called Plan X, and the idea is to dominate the digital battlefield the same way the U.S. rules traditional warfare. For instance, preventing an enemy from detecting an impending airstrike or shutting down an opponent's communications system. The Pentagon hopes to be able to launch lightning-fast attacks and counterattacks using computers. The plan also includes building a map of the entire computer system around the world. A brave new world out there, Gordon.
It is a brave new world, and coming on the heels of a virus that got into the Iranian centrifuges and destroyed them. And now a new virus that supposedly was done by a government. The claim is it's way too sophisticated for any private hacker acting even in a group to produce, that literally takes over your computer, can turn on any microphone, can turn on any camera, can read any email that is sent or any text message, instant message that's sent through that computer. It is a brave new world.
California State Senate has approved a ban on a mental therapy designed to turn gay people straight. The controversial bill would prohibit therapists from telling young people it's possible to change sexual orientation. The vote has sparked outrage from those who have undergone conversion therapy. Some say it helped them overcome same-sex attraction sparked by sexual childhood abuse. Opponents also point to the thousands of members from Exodus International who live heterosexual lives, many with spouses and children. The bill now moves to the State Assembly for consideration. High fructose corn syrup won't be getting a new name. The Food and Drug Administration has rejected a proposal to rename the sweetener corn sugar. Now, back in 2010, the Corn Refiners Association submitted an application for the name change. They wanted the product renamed on all nutrition labels. But the FDA denied that request Wednesday, saying they define sugar as a solid, dried and crystallized food, not a syrup. The Corn Refiners Association says the FDA's decision was based on narrow technical grounds. Well, you can always get the latest from CBN News by going to our website at cbnnews.com.